Good morning. I'm Peter Stockdale, and I'm here with Judith Matheson and Christine Vincent. And we're here for Water is Sacred Ottawa Outaouais. And this morning we're talking about the importance of water. So could you please, Judith, begin an introduction, if you'd be able. Go ahead,
Well,
Judith.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Peter for suggesting this, and I want to thank Grandmother Christine, Métis grandmother, for being with us this morning. I want to also honor and acknowledge that we're really blessed to be living and working in action for our environment by being blessed to live in the Algonquin spiritual territory of ancient lands, of people here since time immemorial that had great connection to the earth and great relationship. And because I've been blessed to live here for many years, we have stories that we would like to start telling as grandmothers. And today we're going to emphasize my particular story, and I want to share that part of my story is bringing your attention to a project that I've been involved with since early September, and that is the Time of the Sixth Sun. And the Time of the Sixth Sun is a series from September to May, the last Sunday of each month, in which we have different films that have been created by elders from all over the planet to, at this time on the planet, share wisdom and knowledge very relevant to all people's relationship with the planet herself and the waters that are so sacred and vital to all life. And that's the theme that we'll be talking about today. Why is it so sacred to me in my own journey? But I want to draw your attention that I will be speaking in the circle on the upcoming Grandmother Speaks. The Grandmother Speak will be the series we'll be talking about on the last Sunday of this month, February 23. I believe it's February 23, sorry, yep. And we look at 2020, it's a time for new vision.
And where's that going to be?
And that's going to be at Kitchissippi United Church at 630 Island Park Drive. There is an open potluck sharing circle in which we invite speakers to speak for the first 10 minutes on the story of their lives as it relates to the theme. And then it's an open circle of everyone having their voices heard as it relates to the theme. So I hope many grandmothers will join us, including Christine, because the grandmother's voices in this time of great awakening is a great time of knowledge and wisdom coming through around the significance of birth and giving birth to the new. And the world now already has a lot of babies that need homes. The world needs us to birth through new projects now. So I think the wisdom of grandmothers from all over the planet, you'll see this in the series. So I invite everyone to mark their calendar, and I invite Peter to have an ability to take a picture of the flyer, but he can actually maybe put this on at the end of the program after we've finished for people to see that. And I would draw your attention to go to the website, www.woutaouaiswellnesslearning.com, and on that website go to the events page, because you can even tap into segments of the series created by elders all over the planet. And you can tap into that in your own internet. And you can also see the movie The Awakening of the elder Algonquin spiritual leader William Commanda hosting an event in the watershed many years ago. And the full story of the American visionary Barbara Marx Hubbard. So that website to me is a learning tool, an educational tool, but more important than that, I believe water, Facebook Water is Sacred, Ottawa Outaouais, is an inspirational way for us to all begin to find our own voices and get better at listening deeply to the stories of each other.
And anyone can post in that too, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So we invite everyone to tap into the knowledge and wisdom that's beginning to come forth through internet, the new technologies, and grandmothers beginning to learn how to talk. I have great hope for the new world emerging. So thank you, Peter. I'm looking forward to sharing today.
So let's get into it. So you've lived in 6 cultures, Judith.
Mm-hmm.
And you're here after all that experience, sitting by the Ottawa River. Why is water so important to you?
Well, water is vital to all life, first of all.
Because you spend so much time on this, right? I mean, you're on this thing, water is sacred,
Why is
etc.
it so important?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be here, first of all, if I hadn't been birthed through my water, my
Mm-hmm.
mother's water breaking.
Sure.
And I
But
guess
we all have that experience.
Exactly.
So, but water isn't that important to everybody else. So but it is you.
I don't think people are conscious of how important it is. And I think life experiences and events of life are the greatest teachers. So a lot of who I am today, I'll actually be turning 76 this month. So I've been doing a lot of deep reflection. And when you do the deeper work of interiority, and you begin to see that the inside job of who you really are is what's most important. And most of our lives we're conditioned from the time we're birthed to become something other than we are. And we forget who we really are. But at essence, at the core of who I am is an energy. It's an energy that is fire in my soul that seeks to express and articulate my journey. Why do I feel so strongly about water? Well, water, where I chose to be born, is significant. I chose to be born in St. John, New Brunswick. And the First Peoples talk about the Eastern as the land of the rising sun. I was born next to the Atlantic Ocean. I was born almost on a toboggan in a storm and winter, similar to today. We have a beautiful snowstorm happening in Ottawa. We're looking out along the watershed of the Ottawa River, one of the 5th most important riverways on the planet. And I chose to be born in St. Joseph's Hospital. I chose to be born as a twin. I had a womb mate. Hi, Jan. And we came into the world 1 month premature. As I say, we were almost born in a toboggan because they actually, in the storm, had to take us down a huge mountain to meet the doctor in a taxi cab to get us to the hospital. So my mother was on this toboggan, and down the hill they went. So they just got to the hospital in time. Now there's a saying, I used to work in palliative care, there's a saying in palliative care, a person will die the way they chose to come in. And usually some of us come in pretty fast. So
are you going out on a toboggan?
I think I'll be going out fast. When my time has come, the journey's over. I'll have recognized why water is so sacred. Well, water is sacred. Life is sacred. We are sacred beings. Why do you think grandmother and I love to laugh? Grandmothers are
laughter is the best medicine.
Because there's so much pain on the planet. At some point, they say as you get older, you become a little lighter. You take life a little less seriously, yourself a little less seriously, and the pain becomes more compassion. And I think if we can get better at seeing how the grandmothers, we are mothers first, and some of us don't choose to have children, we're aunties. And thank God for the aunties and the uncles. Because in a community, family is what's most important. And the children are our greatest teachers. So when you go back full circle to life, as a child, I was blessed to choose Celtic Irish ancestors. People very connected to nature, to the land. My father was very connected to coming from a farm. Very simple working class people. Now, when you look at life, life is a journey of beginning to see why did you choose to be born in an area where people are very connected. Maritimers are very, very simple people. They don't lose connection with humor, and they love to laugh, especially Irishmen. That's how we deal with our pain. But I often say to people, if you don't laugh or you don't cry, you're going to have emotional issues that will affect your health. So from a holistic point of view, I don't think there's anything more powerful than the water that comes from tears of joy or deep tears of anguish. So anguish, pain. My journey has taken me to witness it. Why am I here today? When you journey through pain, you can feel it. I'm expressing it because I have pain. But pain brings out the essence of the water. The wellspring within, the core of who we are, is water, air, fire, spirit, soul, vibration, energy. So the journey that we are on the planet right now has taken me to live in 6 cultures. Why did I live in 6 cultures? Well, I chose to have a father that was in the military. And after World War II, my father and his family lived in 5 different places on military bases in Canada. So when I became a young woman, I said, the man I marry will give me roots. And I often say to people, be careful what you say, because the universe is listening. And be very clear what you're asking for, because you will co-create it. We are creators of our own life story. Every event and experience that I've created has been my way of learning what I needed to know. I've come here to learn something. I think we've all come here to learn something. If I was to encapsulate what we're here to learn, and what I'm continuing to learn, is how do we learn to love ourselves? How do we learn to stop being so hard on ourselves?
And how does that relate to water, do you think?
Water and tears are very, very important. The healing process of the planet right now, if you look at Mother Earth, she is cleansing and healing, and she's expressing her pain. Because there's so much pollution and pain on the planet right now from human behavior of generations and generations of oppression and genocide and mistreatment, that humanity is awakening to itself now, to see that we are the ones we've been waiting for. Ancient prophecies of ancient beings, such as grandmother's ancestry, they knew that life comes full circle. In life, everything, every event that we've ever done causes us to wake up to see, I don't want to do that again. When you keep repeating a pattern, you become a victim. Humanity that victimizes itself does not create a humanity that leaves for the future generations a world of peace and a legacy of love and hope. The family of nations on this planet are now awakening to the significance of post-traumatic stress. What does war and fighting and oppression and genocide do to the human spirit? It takes the soul out of people. It takes the soul out of a nation. We are awakening on the planet now to see through the darkness is light rising up. The energy of light is an expanded spiritual consciousness. It's nothing new. The super Christ consciousness over 2,000 years ago has had many spiritual teachers on this planet trying to help us understand the same thing, that we are a vibration of love. There's only two energies, fear and love. When we're in ego and fear and oppression and I become the victim and I keep repeating a pattern of victimizing myself, I'm part of the problem, but I'm also at some point in my awakening becoming part of the solution. And humanity is awakening now with modern science and technology and spirituality, which is bigger than religion. Religion has taken us to a point to see that we have the power of choice to begin to think for ourselves and create things that are new based on now what we don't want to believe in. That could be an illusion of not truth, but someone wanting simply to control me from fear. So all these institutions are doing the best they can on making their choices to help people do something they want them to do. And if it's based on materialism, we become entrapped, imprisoned in becoming a victim. Now, I think on the planet, if I were to look at the planet of the 21st century, because I lived in Tanzania, I chose to have my first child in Tanzania. Now, what did I learn living along the Indian Ocean? What did I learn living in an African culture? I learned a lot about how to have a child by cesarean section in a hospital that did not have the facilities I was used to as a Western person. I learned a lot of the difference between a third world country and a country that is blessed to have so many resources and so much education, that we are so blessed, but we don't know it if we never leave our own backyard. So the next posting that we went to was Turkey. In Turkey, I learned if you're going to have a second child in a third world culture, and you're going to have another cesarean section, don't expect that if you're told by the government that they'll look after you, that they will, because things don't work out that way. So I learned that when you have to come home and leave your husband in Turkey and have a child that's 2.5 and you're having a baby, you're going to have some issues, that emotional, mental issues, a thing called stress. Now, everyone on the planet can relate to stress.
Oh,
Grandmother
yes.
can relate to
Oh,
stress.
very much so.
So we all have this capacity as human beings, as grandmothers, to relate to my story. Grandmother has had a lot of stress. I have no idea what her story would be around stress. And I think the viewer that's listening, if you were to look at your own life, we all have a significant story. And until you look at your own story and feel the experience, when we can get into the feeling of what that felt like, we can begin the healing of our own body, minds, and spirits.
And how does water help you?
Water, it flushes out the toxins. Water is critical to health. When I look at the Western culture, a lot of us don't drink water. We are sold on the fact that we drink tea, coffee, juice, soft drinks galore, and our food chain is not just polluted, but the way we behave around cleansing our own bodies is creating a good amount of the disease on the planet. So when I look at why is water sacred, water is so sacred in so many ways. Because then when I went to Paris, France, you begin the journey of beginning to see that all the pollution of the air in Turkey had affected my lungs. And in those days, I actually smoked on top of that. So when you look at consciousness as young people, you are brought up to a pattern that's passed on by your families, and you are modeled something that you think is normal. When you see someone smoking, it's normal. When you see someone drinking to relieve their stress or post-traumatic stress of the war, it's normal. So every generation continues a pattern until at some point something breaks your pattern. You begin to see, why am I smoking when I'm living in an environment where it's worth 2 packs a day anyway? So when I quit smoking, my lungs were already showing that I was going to end up with lung cancer, like my mother ended up with lung cancer. You can't smoke 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day and not have it affect your lungs. And so we're beginning to see that the holistic approach to humanity, every generation gets healthier and wiser, and water is critical.
And you do a lot of very specific and expensive things to have a really good supply of water. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that journey.
Well, thank you, Peter, because that's a very important journey. I believe every event and experience that I've had in my life is about healing. Bottom line, we've all come here to learn how to love ourselves. If you don't heal enough the toxins from your own life story, when I came home from having lived in 6 cultures in 20 years and 18 different houses and cleansing every house, I had done a lot of packing in of toxins, because the toxins you use to clean a house, very, very intrusive to your whole system. And the amount of emotional baggage, because we're not taught a lot about grief. So every time you make a change in your life and you move, you are packing in grief if you don't have the time to unload it, speak, talk, articulate. Our culture doesn't help us to understand it's necessary when you make change to talk. Now, I must say, as a woman, even though I was born in the silent generation of 1944, I've always been very good at articulating. That is the reason why I'm as healthy as I am today. Because when you articulate your story with another human being, you're letting it go. You're helping it to not have power over you if it's an emotional pain. When you're looking at physical pollution, if you're drinking just coffee and alcohol, you're building up toxins in your body as well. So when you live a life with a foreign service, one of the things you do is drink a lot. It comes with the territory of living in foreign service life. One of the things you also do is you pack in a lot of toxins, and when you come home from living like that, you begin to understand that you're not feeling well. Now, after we lived in Paris, we went to Athens, Greece. And Athens, Greece was again a waking up call for me to begin to move to the path of spirituality, to begin to understand the significance of talking and prayer, and to begin to see that in the ancient worlds, they knew very well what natural healing was about. So when I came home to Canada in 1986, I was 42 years old, and I did not know how sick I was until I saw a picture. When we were living in Athens, Greece, when you talk about water, the last Easter that we were in Athens, Greece in 1986, we were all celebrating like we do in Easter, is a very significant, holy, sacred, spiritual time. Chernobyl blew. The effects of Chernobyl was not made real, and people can watch the story of Chernobyl, by the way, on TV right now. I believe it's on Amazon. And the significance of the people that gave up their lives, that catastrophe was not bigger than it was. As beings living in Greece, we didn't even know it was happening. And we were all out breathing the air, eating the food for a full week, and drinking the water. Full circle. When I came back, I know for a fact that the stress that we had experienced in choosing that life, and it was a wonderful life. I call it my university of life. Living in 6 cultures, I have learned so much. And one of the things I have learned, relation to investing in water to help you heal, is the toxins that are in this Algonquin River watershed are significant to the pollution and the raising amounts of cancer that we're seeing in North America. And we're beginning to see why it is we're becoming more sick than healthy. Well, part of it is lifestyle. We're also stressed out. We're not making good choices. People that are working are expected to do the work of 2 or 3 people. The food chain is under siege. And the water itself, if you don't drink good water and cleanse the cells of your body to help them become more alive and healthy than bad, eventually your immune system will get lower and lower, and you will have certain issues of imbalance. So one of the journeys that I see for myself as I look back at my own life, holistic medicine speaks to me of the ways of the ancient ones. They knew the significance of their relationship with Earth. They used just enough.
Christine's younger than you. She's not that age. No.
No, not yet.
So
Getting there, but not there yet.
nomadic peoples, they
Yes.
had a relationship.
Yes.
They grew their own food.
Mhm.
They drank fresh water.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Christine, now,
Mhm.
would you say, if you look at the planet today, it's a miracle we're still sitting here
Oh,
when
it
you look
is.
at the toxins. And so water is so significant to everyone.
Mhm.
So I would suggest anyone listening, if they're interested in exploring, we have invested in something called Kangen water. It's from Japan. The word means return to origin. Now the reason that we've invested in that is my husband's been living with cancer, and he's been living with cancer since he was in 1997, 2 years after he retired. And he's still living through cancer. Why is he still managing to survive the traditional medicine of medications that are keeping him alive? It's because he listens to his wife. He's a smart man. As I say to every person, every good man that marries a woman is a genius because he's married a genius, right there. And I'm sticking by my story.
We're not given enough credit.
So we've been on this approach of healing since 1986.
Yes.
Now, what woke me up in 1986? I began to feel really not well.
Mm.
And what began for my journey, to be honest with you, I'm bringing water back to emotions. If you can't feel, and if you can't cry, and if you can't express yourself, you are locking in emotional pain. And the emotional pain does not help your cells to be alive. You are actually alive physically, but you're spiritually dead. And until we do the deeper work of healing the pain of so much stress, so much loss. When I was overseas, again, we had something called complicated disenfranchised grief. Now, the viewer that's listening to me today will say, what on earth is that woman talking about? What I'm talking about is when you have a death of a significant loved one, and you're not living in the same area, and you have to come back to a funeral and back and live in another culture, and nobody knows the person that you know that died, that was significant to you, you have no one to talk to around your grief. So when I'm looking at North America, I don't think it's any one thing that creates an imbalance in a body's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual health. It's a way of life in this culture where we've lost connection with the significance of relationship. Relationship with ourselves, relationship with our mothers, fathers, grandparents, but most importantly, the family. When I came back in 1975, we had the journey of coming back and forth from postings back to your own culture. And in 1975, I was beginning to see that the most chronic illness I was able to see was loneliness. Why could I see it? Because I'd experienced loneliness. Until you can experience something, you cannot see it. And even when you've experienced it, it takes a while before you wake up to it. But when you do, you have something called empathy and compassion. And when you live from empathy and compassion, you can be present to others in deeper ways. When you do that, there's mutual healing. Relationship is key. The Aboriginal talk a lot about relationship. Grandfather William Commanda, one of the most powerfully spiritual, gifted beings on the planet, could help people like me sit in his circles and help people express their pain. When we can do that, when we can deeply express our own story, the people listening deeply can begin to waken up inside themselves to the truth that sets them free. They too have pain. If you're human, you have pain. There's nothing to define bad or good. It's hallelujah, praise the Lord. I'm human, I can feel. It's when you stop feeling that you become numbed out. And when you become numbed out and you can't feel, you can't express what you're even thinking. And that disconnection, I call it a disconnection between the heart and the soul and the head. And I know Algonquin grandmother Annie St. George Smith, very beautiful soul. She and I have lots of conversations. Why? Because we're grandmothers. We love to talk. And I think why grandmothers are so healthy is we actually talk too much sometimes. Because the poor husbands, they don't know what to do with all our talking. But as she often says, this journey from the head to the heart, and I call it the heart is the bridge to the soul. Well, as she says, it's a lifelong journey. I'm still working on doing the deeper interior work of truly knowing the truth that I still have work to do. Every day I'm learning, and every day I have a new teacher that appears. So when we get to the spirituality of the times in which we're living and why water is so sacred, the waterways of the planet are connected to each other. What we do to one watershed, and as grandfather William Commanda used to say, the water is the bloodstream of the earth. So if my water, my bloodstream, is all polluted, do you think my organs are going to work well? They're not. I'm a microcosm of the earth herself. The earth is our greatest teacher. And as grandfather used to talk about, and Aboriginal people know, from their perspective, the earth is our mother. She gives us life. She sustains us. For every imbalance or dis-ease in the human body, the earth will manifest a herb, a plant, something that will help us heal naturally. Now, somewhere along the path, we got disconnected from relationship, not just to family, but our relationship to the planet herself. And so in 1975, we began that journey of seeing latchkey syndrome. And as a parent, I got very involved in the Aylmer School Elementary system of Parent Teachers Association. And we were very concerned. At that time, more and more mothers were being told you can now have to go back to work to feel good, to feel valued. And who you were defined, motherhood was devalued, and working, because everybody seemed to think we needed more stuff. You need 2 salaries for the more stuff. And so we wondered even at that time, what was going to be the effect of the kids having nobody at home? That the TV would take over the parenting. Well, we're seeing the effects in the 21st century. We're seeing the effects of family, the modern nuclear family, being under such siege that I often say to the modern nuclear parents of today, God love you, because these kids coming in are much smarter than you, because they're higher souls that we need here to help wake us up. And you, the parent, need all the aunties and uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers to support you and to sustain you in the culture that we've created. So when you look at water and you look at life coming full circle, I'm sure the viewer listening today, and I hope this is why we're inspiring you, is to listen. This is the time of the sixth sun. This is the time of prophecy, where the voices of the grandmothers are meant to be heard. Why? Because we give birth, we as mothers care for and bring forth the children, and we have to recognize and bring full circle that parenting is one of the most fruitful, responsible, reverent things that we're meant to do. And I really feel sorry for the modern parent that can't be at home to see their children to go through the toddler age and the different ages and stages of children before they go to school. Because it's the most sacred thing we can do is bring a child onto the planet. And we have to begin to remember what is sacred. Remember the word and bring it back. And I think I've spoken enough for today, but does that give you a little bit?
It gives me-
Well, I'd like to put a note on what you were saying
sorry.
about latchkey kids and the importance of grandparents. And this just happened recently because I have 4 grandchildren. The older ones are 5, 6, and 7. The 6-year-old, he is globally developmentally delayed, so he's special needs. And the youngest one is autistic and global developmentally delayed. And then the baby is just 5 weeks old now. But it was interesting because I take him to his CHIO program, the 5-year-old who's autistic, and I have to get up at 5 o'clock every single Monday and Tuesdays in the morning, and go to their place, take him by Paro to his program. So one day I wasn't able to, so his mother decided, well, I'm going to drive him in. And so it was, total rebellion. Where's Grandma? And where's my Paro? And then the paradox to that came about a weekend later when the 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, my daughter was going by the bedroom and heard something about, they were talking about Grandma. So she stuck her ears in the door, and of course, the 5-year-old in his wisdom said, well, she's my grandma. And then the 7-year-old, my 7-year-old granddaughter, in her wisdom turned around and said, well, she's our grandmother too, and we have to share her. And then my 5-year-old comes back, well, I don't have to share her. I get her on Monday and Tuesdays. And then I'm thinking, I've heard of time sharing. Well, how do you time share a grandmother?
The modern literary grandmother.
Yes.
That's about sums it up. And grandmother, thank you for talking about that, because one of the significant things that I'm seeing, your daughter's so blessed to have you. See, how many grandmothers live in the same city? Again, with the modern nuclear family, with traveling. So I really believe, and when you look at the number of children right now that are being given definitions of imbalances as it relates to emotional, what is happening that these children, and so many of them are coming in, where there's these imbalances? Well, I sometimes think they're geniuses, to be honest with you. I came in wired quite differently too.
Yeah.
Only difference was I was born in 1944. And in 1944, they didn't have all these medications and all these labels. What they did have was a family at home teaching the kids how to do things, because children don't learn sitting in a closed classroom intellectually, okay? They learn by what is modeled. And if you can teach a child to fix things that comes in with a natural gift of being good with their hands, already that child knows the unique talent and gift that the universe has blessed them to come in to use to make the planet better. And we've lost connection with that. Not every child is meant to have the capacity to go to university and store a lot of knowledge from the neck up to become a professional something or other. We do not have enough gifted people that are geniuses, that can think outside the box, that can create new things, because they bring forth something called the ability to have ideas and creative energies to see a bigger way or a different way of doing something. I think in the formal education, we've lost something. We've lost the capacity for our children to feel good about who they are, to have self-worth, and to see that it's okay to be different. Not only is it okay to be different, but because you're different, you're helping us all to see differently.
And I find, and one of the things I find about these adults who have PhDs and everything else, they think get to the point where they have this ego that they think that they're better than everybody else. So someone who comes along with me, or like grandfather, and that's what I love about his book, Kindergarten Graduate.
Yeah.
Those of us who do not have the education are actually often more smarter than those that have something before their names. And they don't want to listen to us.
And again, I want to just say, those people that spend a lot of time getting a good education, I really honor them, because we need that knowledge as well. In fact, that recent plane crash in Tehran, there was and we lost a wealth of very brilliant beings.
Yes, we did.
I mean, and the world needs these beautiful beings that do have that capacity and that ability to take in a lot of intellectual knowledge to honor. We have to bring forth new science for these times. And there was a professor from Tehran that ended up with the University of Alberta. And it was on CBC last week, honoring her life and her death. She was a scientist that actually worked in botanology, and she came to Canada because a person from the University of Alberta met her in Tehran. Because of her energy and her ability to see and articulate differently, said to her, if you ever want to switch and come to Canada and do some research at University of Alberta, come on over and we'll switch you into a different field. We want to study the effects of cancer, why it's happening so much on the planet right now. And she ended up going to the University of Alberta, and she made a breakthrough. And the breakthrough she made in her scientific, because she changed her major, she was brilliant. She actually was able to prove scientifically that there is a silent parasite that plants itself in the liver, and that parasite will create cancer cells throughout the body. She's actually proven that with science and technology, and now there's great hope. And I think there's great hope happening all over the planet now, by the way. Joe Biden was speaking on TV just last night on some of the things that he's doing to help scientists bring forth research in a new way so that we actually can get to a cure for cancer. Because the reality is, we've all created so much pollution on the earth that we are all vulnerable to having lower immune systems. So we need all this beautiful wealth of, I believe, from my personal perspective, if somebody was to ask me what's the greatest resource on the planet right now, other than the earth herself, that is the human being. Mm-hmm. Human beings are the greatest resource on earth. We have the power to make a difference, each and every one of us, in our own unique ways. And we have to get back to ancient spirituality and the honoring of every soul.
Where we're all equal.
We're all equal, and every person comes in with a unique talent and gift. Mm-hmm. Every person is born here.
So the three of us, we're all brought together because of Akikochuan, Chaudière Falls, and we all have different experiences and relationships, both to each other, but also to the falls and water. So I wonder if you could talk to that experience and relationship.
Well, the relationship to the land here and to the water here. First of all, my relationship in nature is my experience of camping, first of all. And being in nature, and thank you for raising that question. One of the things I don't think people recognize is that when you're in nature, everything calms down. Like, we would be talking in a different manner if I was out in, and I said to Peter earlier, why can't we tape out at the table that's still on the balcony in the snowstorm? You'd see there'd be a whole different energy animating for me today. I would be much more calm. I would be much more balanced, because nature is the healer. And nature in this watershed is significant to healing. This area of Canada, okay, I believe is one of the most sacred areas. I believe when you talk about learning the story of the heritage of a culture, and you begin to understand the significance of the story, and the First Peoples are so much more expressing, they are proud of who they are. And not only are they proud of who they are, but they know the rich heritage of this watershed. And when you can listen to them and you begin to have it resonate within your own core, every day I walk here, I can resonate with nature. I am more in relationship with nature than I've ever been before. Because when I am walking, I am in relationship with the energy. And when you can associate to what they're talking about, because it's your experience, when you begin to listen to the trees, you begin to watch for different animals showing up at a particular time, you begin to see that wisdom and knowledge doesn't come just from a book, like we were just talking about. It comes from life experiences and relationship with the energy vibration. This watershed, from the very beginning, was an energy vortex. It attracted Indians from all over North America to come here, and beyond the war out there of their different tribes, They actually prayed and gave thanks and gratitude. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. We must reclaim our own relationship with the power of prayer and gratitude and thanksgiving.
And that's why the peace treaty is so important, because
Yes.
the weapons were buried below the peace treaty, and this was neutral territory.
Absolutely.
There was to be no
Yep.
war, no anger.
Yep.
Everything was to
And
be
they
settled.
traded in peace.
Yes.
And when they were in that vibration, they made sure that when they made a trade, it was done with mutual equality, mutual respect, mutual fairness. And when they do that, you create peace. Everybody was happy. Now, can you envision if we can go back to gentler times every day in our own individual lives of finding balance so that we can be in nature and be in our homes and find the sacred space in our own core to begin to see that every day, every person you meet is a teacher, and you're a student and a teacher. And like today, we're having a conversation. Most of it's me talking because we're wanting to understand, why am I who I am today? What has gotten me to be living on the Algonquin River watershed since 1986 and blessed to wake up through the ministry of spiritual care in hospital ministry, church ministry, and then to meet different spiritual mentors on my path. As you heal, it's like you increase your energy vibration. And to me, everything, life is energy. We are energy, and we're beautiful spiritual beings. We're not just people of trauma. We are people that have a story, but once we heal the trauma, we awaken to the best inside ourselves. But we do it by listening and talking to each other. Now, why was the Free the False group so significant to my journey of awakening? Well, I wouldn't have been part of the appeal process if I hadn't been in the circles with Elijah Harper and William Commanda to begin to understand a bit of the story of the heritage here and my own pain and why I must step up to the plate as a Western-minded being that has wisdom and knowledge based just a little bit of wisdom and knowledge to see that we must all be part of the solution to what we're doing to the planet and the water. Until we all wake up as one humanity, we cannot make a difference. And we don't need a lot of us to wake up. We just need a few of us to start to change the way we articulate and the way we care for the planet ourselves. And the way we work in relationship to do a better job of sharing our stories with each other. And I would say to the viewers listening today, after this conversation, I hope we can inspire you folks to go and sit at a kitchen table and have a cup of coffee and chew the fat with one of your best spiritual friends. Help yourselves to see your own life stories and how meaningful life is. This grandmother wouldn't have the courage, the conviction, and the ability to be there for her grandchildren if she hadn't had a story that got her to live from courage. She wouldn't be here today if she hadn't had that journey. What we do with the pain is what's most important.
Which I think comes back to the sacred islands here in Victoria Island. As a child, I was bullied. As a teenager, I had that thought, well, I wanted to kill myself at one point. But then I got on my bicycle, and at that time they just put the bike routes on the pathway along the river. And I found Victoria Island. I would hide my bike in there, and I would cry and cry. And I would be cleansing. My tears would be landing on Victoria Island herself. I'd be lying down. I'd be feeling the warmth and curling up with grandfather rocks. At that time, I did not know what my proper culture was, being adopted. But then I turned around and I was able to paddle my feet in the water. And that was soothing. So I got the part of the water, but that brought me back to my childhood. Like you, my adoptive parents were great campers. We went from the East Coast to the West Coast through all the different parks. But my father was also an avid canoeer. So we would go out on the water. I would be in the front of the canoe, he in the back. And we'd be able to look down without the motor going. We'd be able to look down through the water. We'd see fish, and oh, there's a turtle going in, and oh, there goes the loon, and there goes the geese and the ducks, and just being right into part of nature. But I felt so at home, not even knowing at that time what the other part of my heritage was. But I felt like I was actually home.
Yeah, and one with it, and it brings back a memory when I was a child, and still a very. I would invite everyone to reflect back on their lives to a memory that was really significant for them. And I often say to people, one of the most important things we can ever do is just not have any noise coming at us. We have so much white noise nowadays. We've lost connection with ourselves. I remember as a child, I wasn't very old, but we were sitting overlooking Dartmouth Harbor and all these beautiful natural grasses, and the wind was blowing through my hair, and I must have been in complete oneness with all that was. I was just maybe 2.5, 3 years old, but it was a memory I still retain, a very significant memory. It's like a memory when I was growing up in Winnipeg. I was a tomboy. I loved to play sports, loved to be outside all the time. I was always out in nature.
That's me, too.
And I'm running fast like the wind. And again, it's a moment in time. I swear I must have been in complete connection with Spirit at the time. Those are two significant moments for me. When you talk about why is it significant, this watershed and nature and water, it's significant to the soul. This area of Canada is the heart of Canadian democracy. There is a reason that there are more people like me and you, that yes, we may be different because we are different. We don't fit into the mold, some of us. And that takes me full circle to the children. I never fit in the mold either.
No,
but I was
I.
lucky. I was born in an era where it was okay. I was allowed to be who I was. And I was very blessed to have very amazing parents. I had a father from a very early age that taught me that I must find my own truth, but I must get informed. Never believe somebody else's truth. Check out a book if you're going to read it. Read who the author is. Who is this person that's writing this story that you may take some of his truth to be yours? You want to be sure of the quality of the person writing the book. My father taught me to read, get well informed, and then to sit at a kitchen table every night and articulate what did I think of things. And then he'd always take the opposite point of view. How was he doing that? He was teaching me to find my own truth, my own self-values, my own worth. That's what you're doing for your grandchildren. If they don't have another human being modeling to them love, modeling to them compassion, that's what we need to restore to our own humanity now.
And that's what I learned off my grandfather. I'm alive today because of my grandfather. I've written a story to honor him as well. But it was those simple, the blacksmith, his simple, very simple roots that kept me intact as a child.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. And then I realized this is what my grandchildren need. So I am so thankful that I'm there for them. And I would recommend any grandparent, any time they spend with the grandchildren, whether it's spending 5 minutes to read a book even, which I do with my grandchildren, is worth it. And to see my little autistic grandchild being blossoming through the CHIO program and then having to fight for all these programs with a special...
Well, see, that's the challenge we're living in now. I feel so sorry for the modern parent, to be honest with you, because they don't have a lot of grandmothers sitting in their own backyard, to be honest with you. What I'm seeing is we're coming full circle. In life, you can do something this way, and then all of a sudden you can see, oh, well, we went too far this way, now it's time to come back to the center. When you're looking at the growing capacity for all of us, to see how important it is to sit and have conversations. I believe, the reason, to be honest with you, we've been camping for over 20, well, my granddaughter's 22, so I guess 22 years. Why did we do that? Because at a campsite, there's no technology, there's no TV. You have relationship around a campfire. And that has cemented relationship with our grandchildren, who are late teens and early 20s. Why is relationship so important? Well, relationship helps people to find their own values, similar to what I was talking about. These children, the children of today, and the youth of today, and the young adults of today, they are brilliant. They have great wisdom. It gets back to this Time of the Sixth Sun series. When we get better at sitting in circles and talking and articulating, and most importantly also listening. The circles that we're doing for the potluck start at 5 o'clock and go to 6:30. And everyone in the circle, I believe, over a process of 8 to 9 months, we're getting better at not just me talking as we're doing today, but in the circle, everyone's voice is equal. So if you have a family and you have grandchildren or young children, taking the time to create a new pattern, sitting down at the table. Start maybe once a week if you can. Sit down and have everybody sit and just say, how was your day? How was your week? When I was a child, it was normal. I would come home from school, and something for me that might have seemed big was going to make me feel unsettled. And there was bullying. I had to wear a patch when I was a child. In grade 3, I wore a patch. I was called a pirate. I didn't mind because what the heck, I liked being a pirate. It was a real thing, in thing. But kids are bullies. And if you have a family that sits at a table and the mothers can tell the child comes home unsettled, you can say to the child, well, how was your day? And when the child can express their day, and once you've expressed it, that thing doesn't seem so big. You know?
Yeah.
And I think we got to get back to simply having meals together. And the modern nuclear family, let's recreate it. It's not the same as it was in our day, and let's honor that the modern nuclear family is different. And in many ways, it's farther ahead in our generation. They're much more progressive, open-minded, and less judgmental. And the modern nuclear family is reinventing itself. But I do believe we, the elders, we have a role to play to reinvent ourselves as well.
Well, this is some of the things that I've been involved in with Lonely Seniors and that, where I was blessed because at that time, my grandfather lived with us. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and he lived with us. So I got a lot of teachings from him that I was very grateful. But I mean, today they go into retirement homes, old age homes, and it's really separating the family. When we're an intricate part of it, because when you look at it, it's all intergenerational. And this is some of the things that we need to get back, is how do we do the
Well, there's so much
intergenerational.
loneliness to it.
So, ladies, perhaps we should start to wrap up now. So, are there any sort of closing messages that you want to send related to water,
Well,
or not?
related
Because
to
maybe-
water, and to bring it full circle,
Yeah.
I think what we're accentuating here on the ending from grandmother's comments is the importance of grandmothers and the importance of family. Now, the importance of water, it connects everybody, and there's several things that connect me to water. To summarize, family is what is most important. Whatever form the family is, everybody needs relationship. Doesn't mean your traditional family of marriage. It means you're in relationship. You're creating your own little tribe. Somebody you can sit in circle with and have a good conversation with. Getting real with each other. Talking about what is significant and important to you. What is important to you today might not have been what is important yesterday. We are beginning to awaken to the fact of what I would like to bring full circle. And that is the Wutaway Wellness Learnings, which stands for all. Grandmother and I are both serving on that particular board for this OWL Association. Now, the OWL Association, we see these eyes. I would strongly recommend, if people want to see knowledge as not just knowledge from personal events and experience, to bring forth your joy of, despite the pain and trial, wow, you've learned a lot. You've made a movement forward. When you're evolving, certain books will attract you, and I would highly recommend a book such as this, because it helps us to see the significance of water, of relationship, how we're all interconnected, we're all interdependent, and in interrelationship, nature is teaching us what affects up there at Chalk River affects down here. What flows down that river affects Montreal and so many cities living around a watershed. We must get better at protecting our water. We must get better at caring for each other. And I think we're building smaller communities now. And one of the things that I find in circles, it helps people just to come in and see they're not alone. There are so many people waking up, and we know we want to make a difference through climate change, changing how we behave in a more natural, healing relationship way with each other and the planet. So on closing, what I would suggest is people keep in mind books such as this.
And this is Aboriginal Power.
It's called Aboriginal Power, Clean Energy and the Future of Canada's First Peoples.
By Chris Henderson.
By Chris Henderson. And what, again, I would suggest if Peter wants to...
And it has Phil Fontaine, Ron Jameson,
yeah, it has,
Paul Martin.
Yeah, it has Phil Fontaine, Ron Jameson, Paul Martin, Jim Prentice, Judith Sayers, and maybe grandmother can say her First Nations
Oh my
name.
goodness, I cannot pronounce it.
I'm going to take a wild guess, and I'll apologize if I'm not saying it correctly. Kekinekusos, Kekinusuos. So it's a book I would highly recommend. And the other secret I would tell people, when you look at water and how it flows, water will always find a way, through. I believe consciousness. When you hear something and a light goes on, that is expanding knowingness. We all have knowledge. We all have wisdom, but it's in here. This is where we have to bring it out. So the journey from the head to the heart of connecting each other from the heart and soul, having authentic relationship at your kitchen table. If nothing else, I hope this morning has inspired you to see that not only is water vital to all life, not only is water sacred, but we are sacred.
And
Life is
families are
sacred.
really sacred, no
Yeah.
matter how they're made up or
Absolutely. And
or
each
what
person,
race or what religion. We are all equal. And we're all
Absolutely.
important.
and as a universalist, we're all interconnected and interdependent all over the planet now. For the mothers and the grandmothers and the voices of, as I say to Peter that he loves, when I say men with good feminine hearts, rise up and step up and walk together. And so thank you, Peter, for being here and helping us to bring forth our voices. Any more questions?
No, thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Christine and Judith. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you time of the sixth sun.